All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're bringing Chad Robichaux back to the Process Over Prize podcast. For those of you who are kind of like, wait, where was the first episode? Let me explain. Let me do some explaining. So 3 weeks ago, Chad was in Virginia with Clark Gracie here at Cole Martial Arts doing a seminar. After the seminar, he was gracious enough to stick around and do the first installment of this podcast. We had an awesome 45-minute conversation, only to realize at the end of it that my phone had stopped recording at some point, and I was mortified. And I think he and Kelly probably laughed it off and were more up in spirits about it than I was. I felt horrible for wasting his time. But being the gracious person that he is, he agreed to come back on and do it via Zoom. So thanks again, Chad, for agreeing to redo this podcast. And I went through all my PCCs, PCIs this time, and we're all set. Nothing to die on us.
We're all good, man. I just I don't know if we could recreate what we did because it was I felt like it was good.
Yeah, that was magical. Yeah. For those of you who don't know Chad, Chad is a former recon Marine. He still actually does a lot of military advising here in the States and abroad. He's an accomplished author. He's got a new book coming out soon that we'll pause and talk about here during the podcast. He's the founder of the Mighty Oaks Foundation. If you don't know what the Mighty Oaks Foundation is, it's a nonprofit organization that supports active duty service members and veterans, dealing with different issues. Last but not least, he's a Carlson Gracie Black Belt and decorated mixed martial arts, pro mixed martial arts fighter. But today I asked him to come on and talk about resiliency. Resiliency kind of being a staple, of his story coming up, as well as the Mighty Oaks Foundation. So again, Chad, thank you for agreeing to do this. We didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about it last time, but can you provide your definition of resiliency? Different people have different definitions of resiliency. I'm just kind of curious what yours was.
Yeah, I think resiliency is just having a foundation that allows you to overcome hardships, and when you face hardships and face struggles, being able to bounce back. So resiliency is is that. And the military, that's my definition. The military defines resiliency as these four pillars, mind, body, spirit, and social, meaning having a holistic foundation of these four different elements, that if you're strong in those four elements, you'll be able to do what I mentioned. You'll be able to face hardships, you'll be able to endure hardships. And then if you struggle on the other side of those hardships, you will have the ability to find center again, to bounce back. That's being resilient.
Okay. Speaking of resiliency, you started training judo, jujitsu at a young age. What kept you resilient, and kind of dedicated to the craft this long?
Well, I think it goes into, why I started martial arts in the first place. My grandmother brought me to a Taekwondo school when I was 5 years old in Raceland, Louisiana. If anybody knows anything about Raceland, Louisiana, very, very small town in Bayou, Swampland, Louisiana. And so to even find a martial arts school there is one thing, but to find one that ended up offering judo and traditional jiu-jitsu is very, look, as a martial artist now, I'm like, how did that work out? So I don't know when it happened, but I know I went to this Taekwondo school, and somehow, being that young, I can't remember, but somehow I transitioned over to Taekwondo, to a little group that was training judo and traditional jiu-jitsu. And so that's the path I took in martial arts, always really leaning towards those grappling based or hands-on based arts. And when I say hands-on, like actually grabbing people as opposed to striking based arts. And so that's what I grew up doing. I did that through my whole childhood, and eventually, in 1995 was at a Marine, and on base, seen a sign that said jiu-jitsu, and maybe noticed that it's spelt funny. And I went thinking I was going to my traditional jiu-jitsu, and there was these blue belts from Torrance, California. And I'm like, blue belts, what are these guys teaching as blue belts? And I proceeded to get beat up. And I think one of the things that you learn when you first introduced to jiu-jitsu is either you're like, I never want to do that again because I'm completely embarrassed, or I have to learn this. And in 1995, when I first introduced to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I was like, I have to learn this. And I've been, all these years later, almost 30 years later, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or 42 years of martial arts, I still train Jiu-Jitsu every day. I'm a 4th-degree black belt under Carlson Gracie Jr., and it's allowed me to compete at the highest level at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I've won gold at IBJJF, International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation. I've won gold as a black belt. In the international opens, I took, bronze at the Pans. Have yet to win a gold at Worlds. But it's one of my goals. And then I was 18-2 as a professional fighter, really representing jiu-jitsu because I submitted my 18 wins, 17 were submissions. So really getting to represent my art in jiu-jitsu. Okay. And ultimately I was ranked number 6 at my highest ranking as flyweight, number 15 as bantamweight. So martial arts has been a huge part of my life. A lot of great things that come from martial arts. But where I think resiliency, which was your question, comes from martial arts is those years of being like, the reasons my grandmother took me to that gym was because I was in a very dysfunctional home. There's a lot of physical abuse in my home, not a very good home life, not a lot of peace. So my grandmother took me there to have a positive outlet for me. And so what kept me in martial arts, what kept me going there, was just being in a positive environment. Look, you do martial arts as long as I have, and there's going to be days that you don't want to go, days you don't want to be there. Days that you're just tired, and especially as a teenager, you're like, I don't want to do this today. But it was always a positive environment to me. And it was always a place throughout my whole life that I could go in, unplug from whatever was going on in the world, and be mentally present. And for me in my life, I'd even know now, all these years later, 42 years later, I'm 47 now. 42 years later, I know that I need that in my life. I need a place I could go and get on those mats, unplug from life. My mind is physically and mentally present in that moment, and I can't think about anything else from what I'm doing in that moment. So the second I slap hands and bump knuckles with one of my buddies and we start going at it, the only thing that I could think of in an entire universe in that moment is the next move. And there's just something awesome about that. It gives you a mental resiliency, really a good emotional foundation. And it puts you in a good social environment. I think, you look at those military pillars of resiliency, it covers 3 of those in one shot. Now, I love that from jiu-jitsu. And that's been a part of my life since I was 5 years old till now. I have a hard job now and a lot of stress in that job now. And one of my outlets is getting on his mats and unplugging. And it's been part of my whole life. And man, I don't think I could ever trade it or give it up because it's just that important to me.
So as a black belt, as like a jiu-jitsu mentor, what do you see as a key part that the students can pull out that benefits them in the resiliency or any other aspect of life?
Well, Dan Gable said this about wrestling, and I would say the same about jiu-jitsu. Dan Gable said, once you wrestle, everything in life is easy.
Yeah.
I think for me in jiu-jitsu, like I have a lot of mental. I think I'm a pretty mentally strong person. I think if when I look at a challenge in life, I'm like, if I decide I'm going to do something, then I usually complete it. If I decide I'm going to, set a goal, regardless, in spite of all obstacles, I usually accomplish that goal. When I was 17 years old and joined the Marine Corps and had this lifelong dream of being a Reconnaissance Marine, I didn't really know what I was getting into or how hard it actually would be. I had no idea. I thought that's what the job I signed up for. So I'm going to go in infantry and I want to be a recon Marine. So that's what's going to happen. I didn't realize what I was getting into. I mean, the attrition rate, is 80%. I don't know what it was then, probably close to it. It is now. I just seen people quitting and people getting injured and along the way. But, and I look back now, I'm like, what gave me the mental capacity to pass that school at 18 years old, having no idea what I was getting into? I was so naive to what I was actually getting into. What allowed me to become a recon Marine that early? And the only thing I could attribute it to, is the fact that I had been in martial arts my whole life. And I'd been through difficult things. And not only had been through physically challenging difficult things, but I had experienced failure. I think when you look at a lot of the special operations guys and guys who go to these tough schools in the military and stuff like that, it's not always a star athlete. The guy who's the hometown quarterback and never failed before. It's a lot of times it's guys like, it's not the biggest muscle bound guy. It's not the guy that's in best shape, the fastest runner or swimmer. Because a lot of these guys, like I said, never failed before. It's the scrawny little kid who came from, Bales of Montana, who's failed on his face his whole life and has overcome failure and hardships. And one thing about like wrestling and jiu-jitsu that I see is that, you go to a tournament, and if you have 1,000 people that show up in a bracket for a tournament, after that first round is over, you have 500 people left. Half of them failed. Yeah. The next time you have 250 people, 750 people by round two are gone. 75% are gone. And then so you learn how to not just win, you learn how to lose. And that's important in life, because life isn't about always winning. There's I haven't learned a lot of lessons in life about through my victories. Most of the lessons I've learned in life has been when I fell on my face and failed. And so I think there's just so much you learn on those mats about winning, about losing, how to pick yourself back up again, how to rebuild yourself, how to be resilient and stay the course along the path of being a martial artist and a student of martial arts, how to stay that course. I mean, a lot of people look at martial arts, and especially a lot of Western people in America look at it and look at the belts as like achievements. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just marks a process. Like, I don't even feel like I started learning jiu-jitsu until I got my black belt. I remember getting my black belt and being like, I was a brown belt for like 6 years. I went down to Brazil, got my black belt, and I was like, I panicked. I'm like, oh my gosh, you just tied a black belt on me, and I don't even know jiu-jitsu. And I had been doing it my whole life. So, it's a lot of people say this, it maybe sounds cliche, but in martial arts, it is the journey, right? It's not the destination journey. And it really is that you continue to learn, you continue to be a student. But I think what you learn most is, in martial arts is not about arm bars and chokes and footlocks and sweeps. What you learn most is how to navigate hardships, how to overcome obstacles, how to problem solve difficult things. And it's not much different than being, me being a 150-pound guy under a 250-pound black belt that has me pinned down. Now I have this, I'm like, okay, I got this guy on top of me. I can't breathe. None of my techniques that I'm trying are working. How do I problem solve my way? I'm not going to just get tapped because this guy's on top of me. I need to calm myself down. I need to breathe. I need to compose myself. And I need to impose some complex problem solving skills to improve my situation. How do I do that under this pressure? And you don't just quit. I mean, if you just quit and tap out because you're in that position in jiu-jitsu, you probably should pick a different sport. And so you
do the same in life too.
Yeah, so it's the same in life, right? Yeah. In life, when you're knocked down, when you feel like, man, there's no way I can get out of the situation, what do? You take a deep breath, you compose yourself, and you problem solve your situation forward. And sometimes that means, you're figuring it out yourself. But a lot of times it means like, hey, what are my resources? Who are people around me that I can lean on? Who's coaching? Who's yelling at coaching in my corner? So much jiu-jitsu in life that parallel each other. And that's what I learned on this match. Since I was 5 years old to this very day, I learned this on those mats, and that parallels of personal life and life on those mats.
Nice. I appreciate that. And going back to kind of pulling out in life and getting you through your time in recon, I don't want to butcher it, but you talked about 3 concepts that got you through every day in recon. I remember one of them was essentially chasing somebody that was better than you, pulling somebody up. That was, Can you elaborate on that? That was definitely a nugget of wisdom that I want to carry over from the last conversation. So.
Yeah, no, I picked up this concept and I got it in recon. It was called, I called it plus minus equals. Yeah, I don't know how I got communicated to me, but I've referred to it a lot and taught on it a lot because plus minus equals. And so, as a recon Marine, I had been given this mentorship and advice that every day I go to work to find somebody that was better than me at everything I did. And then seek after to be at the guy. You go after the guy, ask the guy questions. If you're in the range, like the guy that he's shooting better than me, I'm going to run the guys that I'm chasing. A guy that, man, I did 45 pull-ups. This guy just did 60 pull-ups. I want to be able to do like he knows more than me, like picking him for knowledge for close air sport. Like that guy, that plus guy, that's the guy that I'm looking up to, I'm chasing. And then have a guy that is newer, less experience that I'm pouring into, I'm investing into, I'm mentoring him, I'm paying it forward. Had that minus guy. And then the equals guy is the guy that, I'm walking, he takes a step faster, and next thing you know, we're running. We're like always pushing each other and sharpening each other. Yeah. And so I took that from recon and I brought it into my MMA training. And so in jiu-jitsu, and when I was training for fights, I would do this, but even every day I go in the mats, I'm always going to pick on those mats when I train. I'm going to find somebody in that room that intimidates me, that I think is a little bit better than me, that could edge me out on things. Maybe he's younger than me and faster. Maybe he's bigger and stronger. Maybe his technique's better. In some area, he's better than me and challenges me. I'm going to roll with that guy, even though I know he's probably going to get the best of me. Secondly, I want to find somebody that I'm way better than. I'm going to get like, as a black belt, I'm going to get like a really solid blue belt that I'm going to roll with. That's like my weight that I'm going to belt to practice those techniques with. The things that I couldn't practice with that high-level black belts. I'm going to practice some new things on, and then I'm going to teach him some stuff. Every time I teach something, I feel like I learn it more. So I'm investing in him. And then I got that guy that every day I train with, and I think everybody trains, always knows that person. Like I remember Tino Martinez from Carlson Gracie, and then here at Jared Chafee, like Rob Johnson in Arizona. Like every mat I go on, I know that guy that I'm going to like slap hands with, bump knuckles, and I'm wiping my palms on my pants because my hands are sweaty. I know we're about to freaking get after it. You know, like that's I had those guys. Like I can tell you right now, Tino in California, Rob in Arizona, and Jarrett in Texas. Usually when I roll with those guys, everybody else in the mat room stops to watch those matches.
Just moving the mats.
Like that's the equals guy for me. You know, those people, like those three people, are important for every session. And then I've taken that off the mats and carried it in life. And so in my life, I always have somebody that's a mentor to me, that I could go to hold accountable, people I could tell things that I'm struggling with, even though they're embarrassing, I could trust to tell things I'm struggling with. That's that plus guy. And for me, it'll be a person of faith. That's like guy that's like really challenging my faith in areas like that. And then I have someone in my life that I'm mentoring, someone that I'm pouring into and investing into, and someone who looks up to me. And then I have that peer-to-peer people that are on an equal level than me that I do life with. I'm part of like 2 men's discipleship groups. We meet once a week. One of them's a business leaders group that are all Christian business leaders, and we meet together. Nice. And another one's just like on a personal level, and we invest in each other. And those are my equals guys. And then so that's a really big. I carried that through recon, through martial arts, and in the personal life, plus minus equals.
You've applied that into some of the structure in Mighty Oaks as well too, right? So being a faith-based organization, pulling the guys in, kind of partnering them up with somebody who's kind of been through a similar walk, right?
Yeah, and Mighty Oaks, we it's a non-clinical faith-based peer-to-peer mentoring program, which means all of the guys that teach at Mighty Oaks have been through Mighty Oaks. Yep. And so when we tell them they come through, like, hey, you're not here just to get well. You're here to be in a position to help the next guy. You're going to be in this pay it forward process. You're going to have the opportunity to not just get the benefits of this program, but we're going to be able to give you the opportunity to teach you what we do so you can help others. And so when a guy comes to Mighty Oaks, we have a staff that's oversees the whole process, but the actual guys that teach and lead our work groups through that week that they're at Mighty Oaks, they're graduates of the program. And they have people in the program they're looking up to. That's their plus guy, and they have people that they're mentoring. That's their minus guy, and then they have peer level in there too. So they have that. We make sure we implement that in that process that we have. And as a Christian program, we call it discipleship. But it's just really mentoring, leading, and paying it forward. And when you pay something forward, it's not just the person you're serving that you're pouring into that you benefits. It's
everybody else behind.
Oh yeah. So it's a win-win scenario. It's how life. I believe how life was created to be lived, and how we're designed to grow by being involved in relationships like that, upwards, downwards, horizontal.
You talk about your motivation to start Mighty Oaks, and then also starting a nonprofit organization. I've heard varying kind of points on it. It's kind of easy, or it's actually more so hard because it's a nonprofit. Can you share first the motivation to do it, and then kind of like the startup of getting into starting a nonprofit organization?
Yeah, well, I'll answer those in reverse, because the easy answer is for the business side of it is I have an MBA, understand how to structure business, set up a business. Anybody wants to start a nonprofit, I would always recommend getting a lawyer in the beginning and paying a lawyer instead of filing the paperwork yourself with the IRS. Paying a lawyer to set it up in the beginning, and you're looking at $2,500 to $3,000. And a lot of people are like, I can't afford that. If you can't afford that, then you probably are not in a place to start the nonprofit. It's going to cost you. Right. So if you can't afford that, it's probably a good litmus test to say, get to when you can't afford it before you start a nonprofit, because it's not a revenue stream business. You're going to have to be able to raise money So the reason a lawyer is important because, you're dealing with some very complex and ever changing IRS tax laws and how to have, and you have a lot, by taking on nonprofit, you're taking on a lot of personal responsibility and liability because this isn't your company. You don't own the company. The U.S. government owns the nonprofit. You're a custodian of it. And so because you're a custodian of it, you're a custodian of non-tax money, which means there's a lot of responsibility. And those laws change all the time. Maybe an MBA, like I can't keep up with it. Someone on our staff can keep. The only people that keep up with it is people that are lawyers that deal with IRS, 501c3 tax law all the time. So you could really set yourself up to put yourself in a bad position, have some tax penalties, and not set yourself up right. So always recommend a lawyer. Make sure you surround yourself by like-minded people that believe in the mission that you feel burdened to do and don't have their own agenda. Doesn't mean they're a bad person, just means they're not on your agenda. Have people that are like-minded and are going to be supporters of your cause for the initial board, and then do a joint effort. Make sure you have some broad support and move forward. And then lastly, I would say make sure you're actually addressing a need that's there, and not a want. So a lot of guys in jiu-jitsu are like, like jiu-jitsu ministry is like, oh, we're rolling for Jesus. No, you're rolling because you like jiu-jitsu.
That's true.
Like, or fishing for vets. I'm all about taking veterans fishing, but if you just like fishing and looking for a reason to raise some money to go fishing, you got the wrong heart behind it. It probably won't be successful. So make sure you're actually addressing a need. I love, for example, I love, like, I'm not big into service dogs, but I love I think it's really cool when people need service dogs now. But the problem with the service dogs and veterans, you can't throw a rock in a military community without hitting one of these organizations. So everyone starts these organizations like, are you really addressing a need, or are you doing something that 1,000 other people are doing, and veterans are giving away service dogs to so many of them? You got to find a need, and need means it's a void in a space. What we do at Mighty Oaks, not a lot of people do what we do. There's 45,000 veteran service organizations in America. Probably about 5 or 6 that do what we do. We're meeting a need.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that stat. Wow, I knew it was pretty small.
Yeah, I mean, there's other organizations that do what we do. I mean, like kind of at our level, at our size, probably about 5 or 6 that I would say do what we do at specifically what we do at our level. So we feel like we're meeting a niche, and there's opportunities all the time for us to go outside of what we do, and we don't do it because other people are already doing it well. Why do I want to replicate what other people are doing well? I don't want to be this isn't a business, so I don't want to be in a competitive workspace against other people. We're there to meet a need, not to compete in business. And then if that need's ever met, shut down shop. This isn't an opportunity. Nonprofits are not an opportunity to create a business. We'll do about $6 million a year in programming this year. So we're a very successful nonprofit organization. But I'm on that staff all the time. This is not an opportunity for us to create a business, to create jobs for people. If the need ever goes away and the veteran suicide epidemic is ever over and PTSD is not an issue, which unfortunately that probably won't be the case, but if it ever was, man, we will close shop tomorrow gladly and go on to another need. But we won't keep it around to keep businesses. And a lot of nonprofits do that. They meet the need and then they keep the business going and to create a need for a business, and that's not what nonprofits are set up for. So that's my little spiel on nonprofits. The reason we started Mighty Oaks is because when I came home from my 8th and last deployment, I dealt with many of the things that our veteran community faces. I was dealt with debilitating panic attacks and anxiety and depression. I had lost a lot of friends and had some very difficult times in my last deployment, and so I hit a real downward spiral and ended with me almost getting divorced from my family. And attempted to take my life in 2010, and a lot of things played in a role in my recovery, but nothing was probably more profound than the restoration of my faith through some amazing people coming around me to help me. My wife, who really challenged me and led me to making a decision to get well, and then a mentor, Steve Toth, who stepped in my life and began mentoring me and introduced me to a relationship with God. I became a Christian. He mentored me for an entire year in biblical living. And what I discovered on the other side of the year was that I was in control of the choices that I was making in my life. And that the Bible had some pretty good choices, options for me to make, right? I didn't end up in a closet with a pistol in my hand because of what had happened to me. I ended up there because I made some bad choices in response to those things. Did I still get angry and have anxiety and depression? Of course I did, but the decisions I was making now based on these biblical models of living were leading me in a good place. And I found restoration and I found hope. And ultimately I found purpose. And that purpose kind of manifested in my life with the founding of Mighty Oaks, because I believe God had put a really deep burden on my heart to pay it forward with other veterans who were dealing with the same things I was. And I used my platform from the special operations community to have relationships I had in the military. I used my platform as an athlete and to really launch the organization, and just wanted to pay it forward. And it's simply, Mighty Oaks is simply as a pay it forward effort. 12 years later, God's blessed.
I was going to ask, did you see
way.
it? Did you see it blowing up as big as it is now?
Oh, I never thought it would be. I mean, I didn't even know. I mean, I just knew I had this burden on my heart, and I felt God was putting on my heart, and I felt like this overwhelming need to be obedient to that, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to do it. I never did it, and it was just a totally blind leap of faith. But I mean, 12 years later, we have the most incredible staff. We do about $6 million a year in programming. Our board of directors are, we got Commandant of the Marine Corps and Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps on our board. We got most incredible board of directors. Our staff, we have like about 30 full-time and about 40 part-time staff members. We do I've done on our resiliency program, I've spoken to 450,000 active duty troops, speak at Marine Corps boot camp every quarter. We've given away about 350,000 copies of the several books that I've written. We have our legacy program, which is our recovery program. And over the last 12 years, we have 4,500 graduates. We're doing about 1,000 per year now. Veterans, active duty service members, spouses, first responders. We pay for everything, including their travel. Those a couple $1 million a year that we spend is on those programs. They come on active duty orders. Those that are on active duty from all 4 branches. And we have 5 branches around the country that we send them to. And these programs are 6 days long, followed by a lifetime of aftercare. We've been successful in public policy in Washington, D.C., like testifying before Congress and Senate. And I was appointed by the president to be a chairman of the White House's faith-based coalition program to put faith-based programs back into the VA and DOD. And then internationally, we take those same programs internationally to our allies around the world, and places like Ukraine, where I spent the last, it's been there 10 times since February.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Ukraine and helping those guys there. We've done, we perform rescues operations there with U.S. veterans who've been through Mighty Oaks. We've including rescuing Benjamin Hall, the Fox News reporter, and recovering Pierre's body when he was killed. And then we're bringing our spiritual resiliency program to help emotionally and spiritually prepare those Ukrainian troops that are fighting for their homes and their freedom. Politics aside and all that, who cares about the politics? I care about helping people. There's people help, and we're able to go there and help them. So we've been able to help on all those fronts at Mighty Oaks, and that's what our organization does. And any veterans, by the way, out there listening, I know a lot of veterans probably listen to the show. Those programs are free. Active duty veterans, first responders, spouses. We even pay for the travel. You just go to mightyoaksprograms.org and apply. And while they're free to those, they're not free to us. So anyone wants to support, we are a nonprofit, so you can always donate to support those efforts.
When you go to the website, somebody contacts you, right? Say a veteran or active duty service member wants to go. They fill out the form, the application, and they're contacted by a mentor from your staff, right?
Yeah. They fill out, it's on the homepage, like top right hand corner. Super simple application. We get other information later. We want to make the application super simple. Mm-hmm. And so you apply. You get an automatic email, and then someone will contact you within like 24 hours. And we have 3 full-time staff members that are on the applications team, and they'll get you scheduled for one of our. I think we have 35 programs a year going right now. 35 of those week-long camps in California, Virginia, Texas, and Ohio. It doesn't matter where you live, however, because we'll cover your travel to get you there.
Okay, nice. That's awesome. It's hard to prove a negative, but with Mighty Oaks growing, faith-based organizations growing, do you see more funding being allocated to faith-based vice clinical?
Not from the government side, but we have amazing group of patriots in this country. I mean, this country is like for all the negative media out there, whether you watch CNN or Fox News or whatever you watch, right? There's so much negative media out there. I'll tell you firsthand from me traveling around the country and gathering support from Mighty Oaks. America is a grateful nation to its troops. It's a nation of patriots who love God. They love our country. They love supporting our military service members. That's who America really is, and I get to see that firsthand as I go around the country and talk to people. But the evidence of that is the fact that I'm sitting here telling you, like, we were able to raise, we'll have raised about $6.5 million in 2022.
Oh man,
with
awesome.
me being the only fundraiser. And we've raised since its inception 12 years ago. I've probably raised about $60 million.
That's awesome.
To support our troops. That's just me fundraising, and I'm not even good at it. It's just, I just get out there and tell what we're doing, and people support. I believe God's hands are on it and orchestrate those things to happen, and I believe in God's provisions for that. But it comes from an amazing group of patriots. So, it's despite all the lies we get told by the media, America's a country of some amazing patriots who love their troops and are willing to do the right thing to support. So I've seen that increase over the years. What we saw in 2009 was President Obama signed an executive order to remove the funding of faith-based programs and community programs within the VA and DoD. This was a response to President Bush in 2001 signing the Opportunity and Faith Initiative that allowed those things. So President Obama signed it, took it away. When he took it away, those monies got reallocated to clinical programs. And in 2009 to 2016, we saw 1,500 new clinical programs. 1,500 is a rough estimate. New clinical programs stood up, billions of dollars spent. But from that time, from 2009 to about 2012, the suicide rate went from 16 a day to 22 a day. So when he removed those faith-based programs, those community programs, and put all that money into clinical, billions of dollars, the problem got worse. Yeah. And so when I learned about this and noticed this, I actually said, man, this is a place that I could speak into it, because we have such success at Mighty Oaks and faith-based programs. And so I was given the opportunity to speak to candidate Trump on the campaign trail. I was General Boykin put me in front of him, and I was one of 6 veterans that got to ask him any question I wanted. And so the question I asked him was, and this would have been to any candidate, by the way, it wasn't a Trump thing. Any candidate I would have been in front of, if you become president of the United States, will you overturn this executive order to allow funding of faith-based programs back in the VA and DoD? And candidate Trump said yes. And then he kept talking because he created a lot of drama and what else he said. And I ended up going on the news to defend what he actually said. And I was able to be in a position to hold him accountable to it. I was put on the VA transition team to help his administration. And I was able to say, hey, remember you said this? And we need to make this right. And in 2018, he finally signed an executive order. And I got to be a consult deputy secretary of the VA, Pam Powers, on how to implement VA. And I didn't get exactly what I wanted, but we sure moved the needle quite a bit, and we still are moving the needle. And we got some bipartisan bills passed, and I got some funding in some program that included some faith-based programming. And so I haven't seen a lot of any government funding yet that Mighty Oaks has capitalized on. We've never tapped any yet, but we're going to keep pushing the envelope there. I will never, and you quote me right here on this, I will never take any government funding that compromises the integrity of what we do and how we do it. It's just not worth it to me. We already have a successful program. I don't need to recreate another government program that the government's going to have. I need a place that veterans could come and active duty service members come, that is not clinical, that doesn't have clinical oversight, that no one's going to put something in their service record book that's private to them, that's going to impact their job. They need a safe place to come to. They need a place that is not clinical, but it's peer-to-peer level. There's plenty of clinical programs out there. And we're living life the way life was intended to live by God is the solution to the problems that they're facing. So we want to stay focused and clear on that, and we'll never compromise that for a government contract for money. So.
That's awesome. So now, not to give away the spoiler, but let's talk about the book. So, Saving Aziz. I still want everybody to go out, buy the book, read the book. So if you could kind of summarize, the motivation behind writing the book and the story behind it without giving away, so people don't still go out and buy it and read it.
Yeah. So I got a faux copy. It's not the real copy. I don't even know what book's inside of it, but it's Saving Aziz. And the subtitle, I love the subtitle, Saving Aziz, how the mission to save one turned into a calling to save thousands. And what the book is about, my 8 deployments and special operations in Afghanistan were all with one interpreter, which sounds kind of, for those military veterans listening, that may sound kind of crazy because usually we get a different interpreter every time. But I was part of a JSOC task force, and I was an AFO. So my all 8 of my deployments was the same actual mission. And because of that, I had the same interpreter. And Aziz, obviously, when you work with someone like that, we worked one-on-one. I deployed in a singleton capacity going out all over the mountains of Afghanistan into Pakistan. And Aziz was not only my interpreter, he was my teammate, and ultimately he was my friend. And he saved my life on numerous occasions. I didn't go back to base, and he went home when we wasn't operating. I went to his house. I lived in his home, and I ate dinner with his family and played with his kids and nieces and nephews. And I was there when his kids were born. And so he's my friend. He saved my life numerous times, probably every day. Don't walk there, don't eat that, don't talk to that person. If you talk right now, they're going to kill us. And then tangibly in combat, he saved my life 3 times and, risked his life countlessly for me. And so, I had tried for 6 years to get him through the special immigrant visa process, which is only supposed to take 9 months, a very failed system in our government to help to fulfill a contract that we gave with our interpreters. All those that served with us for 20 years is a contract that we've given them that promises them citizenship if they complete their contract. And the process is only supposed to take 9 months. But this guy had served 15 years, almost 16 years in special operations. In 6 years, he still hadn't got his visa. I mean, this is a guy that's been polygraphed, access to top secret information. So if it failed for him, it's failed for so many people. And so when the president announced the withdrawal from Afghanistan, I knew in my heart it was a wrong decision. I knew the consequences that would happen to the Afghan people, the 40 million Afghan civilians, the 20 years of work that we put in there to fight the Taliban. I figured this, exactly what happened would happen. It would be back in control of Taliban, and the terrorist group that we had fought for 20 years would be in charge of that country. 40 million Afghans would be persecuted for living there. 20 million women and little girls would become sex slaves, and our Afghan allies that fought beside of us for 20 years would be left behind, and many will be tortured and killed for their service to America. And I could not let my friend Aziz and his wife and 6 kids be part of that. So I made initially what I'll say is a selfish decision to put a team together just to go get my friend and his wife and kids, and put together about 12 special operations guys. And as we're putting it together, we had this realization that many other people were left there. Americans, interpreters, their families, women and children, orphans, Christians that we persecuted. So we made a decision, and really I believe God burdened our heart to make this decision to get as many people as we could. And after that, what I witnessed was a divine miracle as God orchestrated all the things that took place for us not to get only Aziz and his family, but ultimately we rescued 17,000 people from Afghanistan. And all that's covered, from cover to cover is the chronological events of me meeting Aziz, serving together in Afghanistan.
Oh, I didn't know it goes all the way back.
The call to go get him, the burden to go get him, go and get him, go and get those 17,000 people. And just that incredible story of so many people stepping up to do the right thing. I was just one of them. I'm telling you, there were so many. I get to give credit to so many people that were involved in this operation, other organizations, and just people that did the right thing. To military service members that actually grabbed Aziz for me and got him through that wire. So it's an incredible story. It's available now at Amazon, or you go to savingaziz.org and pre-order it. Please do. It helps us get the word out. The more we sell, and the more the story's going to get out. It's an important story to tell for a couple of reasons. One, it's important that people know the truth about what happened so that it never happens again. History has to be known so history doesn't repeat itself. Politics aside, we handled this the wrong way. This was not the right way to leave Afghanistan, if we should have left at all, because we were participating in an international effort to keep the terrorism at bay. Nonetheless, it's important people know the truth. I'm giving an unbiased, nonpartisan recollection of the truth of what would happen during the evacuations. 2, it's important that the world knows that in spite of governments doing the right thing, human beings always step up in the lack of governments and do the right thing for their fellow human. And we've seen that through history. And this was an incredible modern day tale of governments failing and just people standing up and doing the right thing because it was the right thing. And lastly, I think it's just an amazing story of friendship and honoring friendship. And again, friends doing the right things for friends. not because of any return or any guarantees, just because
Yeah.
it's the right thing. And so it's a really incredible story, and I get a chance to really give credit where credit's due to a lot of people, and I hope people really enjoy it and take a lot from it.
That's awesome. And it's pre-order now, and it comes out in January, right?
Yeah, January 17th. January 17th is and we're having a book release at the Museum of the Library, Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., January 25th. And Martin, I'm inviting you now as a personal guest.
I appreciate it, man.
People, so you're invited as a personal guest. I know Kelly's coming, and
Nice.
And so you guys come together, and if you want to come and get in a bow tie, and and it'll be a really cool event.
Nice, awesome. Well, Chad, thanks again. I got it right this time. Nothing died on us. Got the whole thing recorded this time. Yeah. But no, thank you to you. Thank you to Will as well too. I know you two been traveling all over the U.S. and get ready to travel back overseas. But thanks for taking the time to redo this podcast, and look forward to reading the book when it comes out. And if I don't talk to you or see you before, Merry Christmas to you and the family, man.
Yeah. Hey, Merry Christmas to you and your family and everyone listening, and have a blessed New Year.
Same to you, bro. Thanks.
All right.